Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. This is the LinkedIn Live virtual book launch about a book which is called Social Selling for Job Seekers. Let me go to the title slides. Today is Friday, 24th of May, 4 p.m. in Pacific, 6 in Central, 7 p.m. in Eastern Time. And actually, I'm calling here out of Sydney, Australia, where we already have Saturday, the 25th of May, 9 a.m. And even that means in the Philippines, where we have Sybil from, it is 7 a.m. So we have a quite international crowd joining. And the good thing being in LinkedIn Live, the same recording will be on the same link, and then we can always rewatch it again. But I would like to give it a little bit, a minute or two, to see how else we are going with more people joining, because not everyone receives the trigger automatically when we are starting. So let me wait a minute, and we have already two out of our experts here on stage. We have Sybil, we have Olga, and waiting for Maggie and Casey to join a little bit later. So 1 minute, and then we are getting started. In the meantime, for those of you who would like to figure out what's all about, a little bit about the book itself and how it came into being. So it's called Social Selling. It's my second book about social selling. The first one I published last year. It was called Connect and Act. And now is the second one, which is called Social Selling for Job Seekers. And if it goes well, I figured out there's another group which is using LinkedIn in a completely different way, which is startups. So I might have one day the book which is called Social Selling for Startups in the year 2025. Not yet. Will be again similar type of book, but of course very much tailored, because I also spend a lot of time with startups recently. So let's wait and get quick checkpoint if we are already visible there. Olga, if you could please confirm if we are there.
Yes, we are live.
Good.
Everything is great.
Lovely, lovely. And we are also now having more on. So welcome and good afternoon, Maggie. Nice to see you there as well. Hey, very good. Lovely. So then we are complete as far as it should be right now. So then let's get started. So I'm excited because it's a funny thing of feeling already on a sunny Saturday morning here in Australia, while in the US it's rather on the afternoon yet. And having spent some time in the US recently in April, then I know about all of the different type of time zones. So the world is so global, and I love that. So let's get starting with this book called Social Selling for Job Seekers, which also some of us have in a physical form here. So what will be this call all about? Let me quickly do a bit of housekeeping while everyone is here there. So for those who don't know me yet, my name is Gunnar. I'm Senior Partner Manager at Active Campaign. For me, my favorite marketing automation platform. I came from the social world and added into digital, so that's what I'm doing. And I used to work at Hootsuite, and Hootsuite is more about social media. It's about social selling. And I helped Hootsuite to improve the existing social selling online course that is sold to companies to get it more into a practical level. So that was for me the starting point. And the way how we run this show at this stage would basically be like this, that I will get started talking a little bit about what the book is about, what's the content, what's the flow, and what is the specialty on it. And that actually is also my book number 25. That's an important number to be revealed at a later stage. And then we will have our discussion together with Maggie, with Olga, with Casey, who's joining during the call, and with Sybil to talk about all of their wisdom, what social selling and LinkedIn means to them. So that is for me an important topic. So let's get started in that sense, more a bit on the content, why and how we are doing this. So I need to just work a little bit in the background on the theatre to have just myself on it for the moment. So let's get going. So a bit about the topic of the book. But before I do this, I would like to think a book is never written just by myself. Anything about networking, which is my passion, requires more than one person. It's not just about the only one who is the author, the one who is running an event. It's always about a collaboration, and I'm happy to have a range of them. The foreword was written by Justin Michael, who actually is also one of the best-selling sales book authors, who just published a book called Attraction Selling. Great tip, because he adds how to use music and sleep to be successful in sales. That's interesting. I have Paul DiMichiel, Ricky Pearl, Olga on the call today, Jane Jackson from the Aussie call, Damien Corbett, Nicola Steele, Veronica Fernandez, Maggie, we have you here today as well, Shuba, Larry Levine from the US as well, Sybil in the call here, Andreas Johnson, who is the CEO and founder of one of the fantastic platforms to get LinkedIn Analytics. Really like that one as well. Craig McAlpine, Adriana Tika, Rema Lolas, who's also working in the US. Roy Kumar, without him I wouldn't know social selling. Brad Wohomoka is or has been my manager at Hootsuite for years, finally met him. We have then also Tom Williams, also from the US. We have Pri Saka, another book author from here. Jem Mayer, my partner at Hootsuite and my partner at Active Campaign. Nick Martin, Arnold Marty, Natalie Tran. We have Dennis Gillen from Canada, Michael Garden from US, Bert Welte from Switzerland, and my editor, Karen Cromie. Without that, it wouldn't sound like English. We have Josefina Luna, who helped me with the covers, and Andrew Akatos printed the first books last year on the book, which was called Connect and Act. That's an important thing to know for the end of this call. Connect and Act was my first LinkedIn book, and now the version for the job seekers. So what do I believe social selling is about? My definition: social selling is a clever approach of using social media and digital tools to enhance business conversations. Business conversation is not Facebook, it's not Instagram, but still we can share what's going on in our world. We can share our vulnerability. We can share our passion for others. It's not just only about selling. It's not about selling at all. It's just called social selling. It's combining social media and digital tools. And that really fits my career. Hootsuite, Active Campaign. It's both there. It's not just going on social like on LinkedIn. It's not only sending emails. If we want to be successful in anything, particularly for job seekers, we need to have more than one channel to look after. And there's one way how I put it all together. And it reminds me that when I've been 6 years old, I won my first championship in Lego with 6. Back then when I grew up in Germany. Awesome. Was also the last time that I played, but I carried the Lego topics all my life. When I moved to Sydney in end of 2016, the first thing I bought was a set consisting of the Sydney Opera House. And whenever I'm passing by ferry, which is around the corner, I recognize the original looks quite close to the Lego version. So I have created a system where I believe you can be successful in LinkedIn for job seekers, for startups, for sales, for everyone, based on 4 steps. The first one is we need to complete our profile first. We cannot reach out if our profile is totally empty or looking like 15 years ago. And I put it in Lego bricks that normally you would build them up north to the top. But imagine you want to start with something and you stand in front of the mountain. You will never be able to see that you will reach it. So I built them, my Lego bricks, towards the right-hand side because that shows the timeline. And the complete part is a long type of a brick with 6 of those stars on it. And then the next part is, once my profile looks good, and it's not an online CV, it's something else, then I need to find out who should I connect with. As a job seeker that I've been maybe a couple of months ago, between my time of my Hootsuite contract and finding Active Campaign, of course, I had to connect with people, find out who are them, who are those I would like to have in my network to be successful for that particular role. Then I add content to it. Once I defined and invited the right professionals in my network, and I see it like an account-based marketing approach, where in a sales type of role, I would have not only my buyer, but the line of business manager, maybe someone from legal and someone from HR, up to the final decision makers, but mostly those who can put the glue in between. So it's a little bit more. And when I have that, I can work with content. There are 3 ways to do this. Number 1, most underrated, using it to comment. If I comment on someone who's maybe in the hiring committee, I can be visible to them. That's awesome. From commenting gets into curating. I take some piece of content from somewhere, let's say a blog from my company, and then I share this with my own words. And I build myself, I make myself known in that type of organization. And I've done that actually when ActiveCampaign had a lovely marketing initiative for the 29th of February, which apparently doesn't happen so often. Was the Leap Day extravaganza where ActiveCampaign combined with a range of other vendors like Calendly and others to do a great initiative. I shared that further with my commentary, and the social media team of ActiveCampaign saw that, which got me building a network, and that was still while being in the process. And the third one of content is you write it by yourself, and that is tricky as a candidate because we do not know in which direction. I work in partnership with IT software sales. So should I be a partner at a cloud company like all the Amazon of the world? Would I be in backup? Would I be in marketing tech? So what should I actually share? That makes it quite difficult, but we can tell our stories. We can showcase what we have done in the past. Let's say the success stories of others that we can present. And then it's all about how can we convert, meaning indirect messaging. The content piece is visible, connecting not, converting neither. So then that is how I utilize the power of messaging, and LinkedIn messaging is the most underrated search engine on the planet. You know, when you work with Google, it doesn't give you answers, only gives you links. And in these links is written those websites who have SEO under control. In LinkedIn messaging, if you plant it well, you find it. I attended an event, I met 3 agencies, I said, that's cool. I connected on the fly, but if I don't follow up with a message clearly saying we met at that event, talked about that topic, at least 2 hooks, then I can later find it. Because the older we get, we might learn one thing, at least it's my case. I'm very good in names. I'm even better in faces, but I'm horrible in the combination. So I need to have tools like LinkedIn messaging planted well, and then I can find that was the person I want to talk about. And then the dialogue still stays there, and I can reconnect, and that really makes sense. So these are basically the 4 steps in the 4 type of the chapters. The book has 42 chapters. 42 subchapters, 42 topics, each of them on a double page. That makes it easy to start reading on the top left. Go anywhere in the middle of the book, start on top left, and go here to the bottom right. There's even a QR code when I update something about it. For every double page, you find everything over there. That's how it's created. So it's 4 big chapters, those that you can see here. Each of them have 10 subchapters. And then there is some pages in between with experts. And these experts, they added a lot of wisdom, because in networking, it's not only about me. In networking, it's about finding and talking to experts and learn from them. And I'm very grateful that also I have some of those here at the call. So, quick one before we go there. How can we alternatively use LinkedIn for job search other than just applying? Let me show you. What's normally? We go to a company we would like to work with, and we find roles. Here's one from Proofpoint, former partner of mine. I can click on it. Was a perfect role for me, I thought. As soon as I apply, it lands in the application tracking system machine. It should get to the human, but it gets in the machine. If I don't manage to filter well, what can I say? It doesn't land to the right person. Often it's also on LinkedIn. I can apply here with the view and hope that a talent expert sees it, but better I find out who that is, apply and tell him or her, hey, I just applied for this, to ensure I get to a human. That's the normal way. LinkedIn, as we know, but Seek is one of these local search engines that we have in Australia and New Zealand. You can use Indeed or whatever it is. More clever. So I found here one role, which is from LinkedIn, at LinkedIn. That was interesting. I thought, okay, who do I know there? I can maybe use a person who I know there as my referrer, internal salesperson, create some bullet points to tell why it's me. And I used to work with someone in LinkedIn called Jill. He's in Singapore. And then he said, when I met him recently, the best you can do for LinkedIn is actually being outside, because I'm advocate of the platform. But normally the idea is to get inside with someone who can refer me inside. Finding out who it is, get a referral, open doors. Doesn't always help, but it's often a good way to get in that. What do we need for this? To have built beforehand a good network of those we can reach out to when we need it. Not now, but in the past. So therefore, networking is always ongoing, online and offline. So now the smart one. Here I found one who said, hey, I just joined Okta. Okta is one of those companies when you log in, single sign on, the login screen for those who don't know who they are. I said, that's great. Follow up with him. And I recognized one thing. Number one, happy for him to go there. Number two, where does he come from? Is it a good way? What is a typical pathway? When I'm at Hootsuite social media, what are the adjacent area around that so that it makes sense, that it is perceived as something great? And I figured out, he came from CrowdStrike. Oh, hoppla. When he's going there, it could actually be a good thing. So then that's why I thought it might be awesome to have actually a chance to figure out if CrowdStrike still has this position offering. So I combined the things together, and when I joined Active Campaign, I also had at least the possibility to see the person who had the job beforehand, who I knew from my network, and I knew where he went to. And then combine the things together, that helps awesome. That helps in such a great way. So that is the way how we can get even a bit more smarter, but it only works when we have our network in real life and in LinkedIn fully established. So that's how that would do. So then, after these kind of methods, type of topics that I also explained well in the book, I would like to ask to the stage Maggie. And Maggie used to be the Chief Marketing Officer at Hootsuite when we worked together across continents. She's also a board member and strategic advisor for organizations like Grindr and SafePlace. And I'm very happy that I had the chance not only to have one page full of wisdom from her, but also to meet her recently in Chicago. Hi. Good afternoon, Maggie. Nice to see you
How are
here.
you guys? Good to see you too. Can you hear me
Yes,
okay?
thank you. I hear you okay. I know that you have been on the road, so grateful that you're not calling out of the car. So it's a good one. So I would typically have maybe 4 questions.
Sure.
So first of all, quick introduction about yourself and what you think, what means LinkedIn for you?
Oh, sure. So quick intro. Yeah, you covered the highlights, right? So I've been a global marketing leader for most of the last 15 years in multiple industries, actually, staffing and recruiting, in the insurance industry, health and benefits, and then also with you at Hootsuite and social media. So I've been able to work on a number of different things, and I'm part of the board that took Grindr public. So that's been a really fun and exciting journey as well. So predominantly now I'm doing board work, both public boards and then nonprofit, and then some private equity boards. So that's where I spend my time. And in terms of what I think about LinkedIn, for me, it's really the social media platform that has the most relevance to what I do. And as a B2B marketer, I think it also has the most relevance in terms of campaigning on social and understanding social. And so, I've probably not been as active on LinkedIn as I need to be over the last 6 months, but have been very adamant and very active in the past. And so, I find it's a place that a lot of different things can happen. So either helping other people find jobs, helping to source talent for recruiters, looking for roles myself. Also, there's just a lot of really good content that's put out on LinkedIn now. There are a lot of people that are curating, points of view that can be really helpful and really relevant. So of the platforms, I view some of the other ones as entertainment, but to me, LinkedIn actually has a lot of content value and a lot of applicability to the work that I do every day.
Yeah, and actually, when you mentioned you have not always been active, the beauty is when having a large network and then all of a sudden to appear and post something can have often a much more visibility than those who are daily on the platform. So when you posted about the fact that we met in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, you had maybe 150 likes, and so many people came out of it. And when we had a couple of pictures also with the book, thank you for that. That was really nice, and got this person branding story back. So that's what I really enjoyed. So that's a very good topic, because while people say you should be regular on it, have consistency, never posting is also consistency. That I do not mean, but have something valuable to share and also personal stuff. So when we think it from a job seeking point of view, what do you think? What are the challenges that they have to be on LinkedIn? Because they normally don't want to share too much.
It's a great question. I think what's really important about being on social is that you need to take the same approach as you would in a live interview. And I think, with social media, there can be a temptation to not use real language, to not come through as your sort of authentic self. And the world doesn't really work that differently than it used to, which is people buy from people. So if you think about job seeking as a transaction, people are going to be attracted to, they're going to seek further, they're going to scroll up on a profile that they think is interesting, where they can see somebody's humanity kind of poking through and peeking through. And so I think, for the job seeker, it's really important to show up on LinkedIn in a way that gives people some insight into who you are, that gives people some insight into what you stand for, and that you have a perspective. I think if you're just putting standard corporate facts out there and just resharing other people's content, don't have a point of view, you're not out commenting, you're not that's something I'm very consistent. I will always comment, I'll always I pay attention to what other people are doing as well. If you're not somebody that's active, if you're not part of a conversation, what's going to make somebody want to have a conversation with you? So I think that's a good approach to take with LinkedIn in general, and it's been very successful for me at any rate.
Thank you. You mentioned also one thing what I like about when you said to have a perspective, because LinkedIn is the best way to show authenticity.
That's right.
Of course, it requires that people want to share something from themselves and not to be perceived as a billboard of role at company, and then they change another role at another company, and it looks like it's too transactional.
That's right.
At the end, we are not. Business is done between people, and people like to work with people they know, like, and trust, and those who also like to educate, entertain, and inspire. These are the additions that I have in the book. So what is maybe that one tip you can give to our audience of when we are in defining the next role? It can be internally, no need to put it externally. It can be even to add a board role, what you added, a couple of them, and I also have now my second one. So therefore, what tip would you give in regards to LinkedIn and social and digital as the main thing that helps?
I think something that's really important is to put in unexpected information. So if you look at my profile, for example, or if you look at yours, you're going to see interesting facts. And I think that when somebody is doing research on you, they're looking for a hook into a conversation. And so one of the pieces of advice I would give is put something unexpected in your profile. I have something in there about my honors thesis when I was in college, or that I was on the college volleyball team. Those are things that just help you relate faster with another human being. They're going to be attracted to something that's in your profile that doesn't have to do with project management or Six Sigma green belts or something along those lines. If you can put in something that really talks about some of your history, it's just a way for people to start a conversation with you faster and feel like they have a sense of who you are. And so, I think it's really important to have a little bit of fun. Have a little bit of fun with your social. Don't be so serious that people feel like you're not approachable. I think the more that you can reveal of yourself, the more people are going to feel like they can connect to you. It's not just about you connecting to them. People have to want to be attracted to you. So, be you, be authentic, be obviously put a perspective out there. I think the other thing too is, if you're not comfortable posting your own information, at least get out and try to comment. If you want people to interact with you, you've got to interact with them. And commenting and liking are things that you can do that are relatively lower risk as you kind of build up your social acumen. So those are two things I would say. I know you told me to give you one, but those are two.
Thank you so much, Mickey. Great having you here on the show.
Thank you.
Really like this. Enjoy that. So then let's go to the next person. So thank you so much, Maggie. It was a pleasure also to seeing you after knowing you from LinkedIn, from internally and also live. And the picture is exactly the same. So really enjoyed that. So the next one is Olga. And Olga, let me add you to the stage. So Olga, you are the co-founder and CEO of Modo Up, a social selling agency. You work with Microsoft. You have done a lot of corporate work, and now you help clients all over the world with social selling. And while I know you more from that sales type of related role, I enjoy also that you take personal branding as a very strong topic, which also helps our job seekers. So then, Olga, stage is yours. So for a quick introduction.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Gunnar, and congratulations on your book launch. So this is amazing. I have it actually. It's on my desk. Yeah.
I did a selfie with both of them.
Great.
Could you hold
Yeah.
yours again, please? Take your book again.
Just a second. Okay.
Yeah,
Like this.
thank you. Very good.
Yeah.
So quick
That's
one about yourself.
yeah, I'm a founder of the social selling agency, and actually we focus on social selling. And our definition of social selling is very similar to what you told before, and it's about building personal profiles, like on LinkedIn, and not only on LinkedIn, on social media, and maybe even on broader channels to achieve your business goals. For example, for some people, it will be about finding your clients, partners, employees, or building your careers. Not only like about job seeking, but also you can build your career inside your company and, for example, get new positions, develop your career internally in the company. So there are a lot of different opportunities you can achieve with your LinkedIn profile, with your personal brand. So this is what we're doing. And actually, I've started doing it working at Microsoft. And there I first launched a project which was called Employee Advocacy Project for all of the employees in the Central and Eastern Europe region to kind of motivate them to become more active on social media, to share companies' updates, to build their personal brands. And after that, I focused more on social selling and on we call it like customer-facing roles. So I focused on these amazing people, and I teach them, I trained them how to use LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, so these kind of things. We don't work with job seekers usually, but now I share some tips for job seekers as well, because LinkedIn actually, and what we are doing, the approach is very similar for like finding new job and for looking for your clients or partners. So the mechanics are very similar. That's
Yeah,
why.
indeed it is. And I think it's not only in the case of those which are looking for sales-related jobs, because that would be too obvious. But
Yeah.
what are companies looking for? Someone from a broader sense in terms of achievements. You need to look for someone who makes money, saves money, completes projects, and contributes to the culture. These are the typical four things, and everything else somehow fits maybe plus minus to it, and that works as well here. And it requires one thing. So, and the funny thing is, there was a time when I spent 6 years in Central Eastern Europe, and I think our LinkedIn profiles crossed our ways because it was similar territory back in the days. And potentially, when I joined the Microsoft events there, we might have been even in the same room, but sometimes it needs LinkedIn to meet and build the trust. And I've been happy that I also spoke on one of your events 2 years ago. So therefore, what does LinkedIn mean to yourself?
For me, LinkedIn is a networking platform. Like the main goal of LinkedIn for me is networking, because I've moved to the new country like 7 months ago. I moved to the US, to Texas, and of course, I'm meeting a lot of new people here on LinkedIn, and I find some new opportunities, for example, like public speaking opportunities. And I'm new to the country, but I already have a lot of, like, I spoke at some meetups, at webinars, at some conferences. So because of LinkedIn, actually. And it helps a lot with networking, with adaptation in a new country, and with finding new partners and new clients. So there is.
You mentioned one interesting thing. You moved to a new country and observed your journey.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing 8 years ago. I came to Sydney, coming from German-speaking countries where it's an equivalent to LinkedIn called Xing, comes from crossing,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is maybe few weeks newer than LinkedIn, but both also 20 years, 21 years. I'm on the platform for 2003. That's more relevant in German-speaking countries. I came here to realize that US and Australia are the countries where LinkedIn is mostly relevant. And that's how I built my network as well, attended meeting events. And I actually wrote this, and that's part of the book. It's towards the end. It's about across 14 pages, my story, which I called From Laid Off to Paid Off. But that shows how to use LinkedIn from a job seeking point of view to build a new network at a new place. And I do hope that most readers don't need to go to a new country, that they can also find their next adventure internally or externally, or add something to it, even at the place that they are. But I learned it from one of the gurus recently, obviously, thing that you all might have heard. The best time to start networking was yesterday. Second best time is today, obviously. So, but what do you see the challenges for job seekers, particularly on LinkedIn and networking?
Oh, it's a great question. Actually, job seekers these days are in a very hard position, especially in the US, where there are so many candidates on the market and not so many open positions, and the competition is so high, and it's so difficult to find new job. So yeah, the situation is really hard right now, and this is the main challenge. And here, I think that the candidates, they could use like two kind of approaches. And first one is this is what most people do. They just spam every companies with their resumes, and they send like thousands of resumes, really just thousands of them, and they get like maybe 1 to 3 invitations to interview, so their conversion is very low. But other people, they build their network. They try to meet some people for coffee. They try to find out some insights, maybe to find out what kind of goals a company has, and to be very useful to a company, to maybe some certain hiring manager. And these people, they succeed, and they have higher conversion, I would say, from their resume sending, interview, and to hiring. Yeah, actually, that they find their new jobs. So this is the main challenge, that most people, they're afraid of networking, but this is the
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
There's one thing what I learned. I've done a personal development training when I've been at HB 15 years ago, and the trainer, who was from Tennessee, she said, "Gunnar, you're a book author. You are born introvert and shy," which is true. One day over time, you will get back into that stage that you hide yourself behind books. And I realized that actually, as a trained extrovert, there's nothing better than combining online with face-to-face. I currently have a series which I call 42 Coffees, to meet others and showcase what they are doing. And that came from this job seeking period where I said, of course, if I needed a job, it's about me. But I first need to have a give and take or give and receive approach. I need to help others first before something get out for me. So I pay basically into the universe, and one day an opportunity turns out. And that exactly is what you mentioned. If you combine this, instead of just applying like a machine, like a numbers game, you don't want to be at a number in a new company either. You would like to come also with maybe one particular quality, and that is we can build a network, not just for us, but also for the role. I work with agencies, with partners. So it's not only my duty, but also my passion to network and find people and go to an event and within 10 minutes to secure a meeting of someone who said, "Hey, you're an active campaign? Great. Let's have a call. Let's have a meeting."
You're a
And it
natural
fits well.
networker. Actually,
Thank
yeah,
you. I
I
love that.
admire how you do it. Actually, yeah, I think that everyone should learn from you how to do it, like combine online and on-site networking. That's great.
Thank you. How would you combine? How would you give maybe that one single tip that in the challenges you mentioned that
Mhm.
our job seeker, internal, external, additional, whatever they would like to change, what they should do?
Yeah, it's always a problem to focus on everything, because social selling is a complex approach. You need to create content, you need to do some networking activities, messaging, and everything. So if you don't have a lot of time on it, just choose one. And I would recommend focusing on messages, like growing your audiences and messaging them, because actually in messages, the magic happens. If you send some networking messages to people, you could have some new conversations, meetings, calls with them, and these meetings or these calls, they can lead to some new opportunities, much better than content you publish. Of course, it's great if you have time, if you have some inspiration to publish some content. It's great, but it's a long way. So you
I
will
know.
get your results after, I don't know, maybe half a year of publishing content. But if you do messaging, it's about I would say faster results, and this is about networking that can lead to some interesting outcomes.
Totally. Without reaching out and messaging to you back then, I would not be able to speak at your LinkedIn Live where you had maybe thousands of people and so on it. So I was really, really grateful for this one. And then keep on going with the conversation. Yeah. Thank you so much, Olga. I really
Yeah.
agree. Messaging is the way how the magic happens. And that fits into these bricks that I had after the profile looks at least good enough, decent enough, and a network that is also relevant to say, yeah, I would like to keep a conversation to someone because I can also learn from. And that's really what makes sense. Speaking of this, like to learn from. So I would like to now invite on stage Casey, and that will be a very special moment because Casey is one of those examples in an organization who creates fantastic content to attract so many people I cannot even reach out to. But Casey manages. So Casey is a senior growth manager here at Active Campaigns. So then, Casey, first time you and me on a call together, and I'm very grateful and happy that you're here because you are, for me, the role model. What even makes sense before I let you talk and introduce yourself, when I looked at the company in my interview process, is there someone who's actually sharing a lot of great stuff? And it has a talent attraction type of formula in it. So, welcome.
Thank you so much for
Speak
having
about
me.
yourself.
It's an honor to be here, and a big congrats on your book launch. My name is Casey. I'm a senior manager of growth here at Active Campaign. My career, I've been in the software world and MarTech specifically for about 12 years. I've also gotten pretty heavily into the consulting side. I teach a little bit at UCSD and at Stanford around demand creation and around content strategy. I launched a board game in 2018 on Kickstarter, which we 800% funded and sold all around the world. And then a year later, I started a course-based business where I kind of took some of the learnings that I had kind of picked up and created a digital product, always kind of trying to test what I was learning working in the automation and marketing tool space. And now I'm here having a lot of fun, and social strategy is a big part of the work that I do. So that's a little on me.
Awesome. I didn't know about your digital product, so that's good. So that we both would have something to share and experience about it. So when you look into LinkedIn, I observed that you are sharing a lot of stories that work. You tell this is how you can do things, but you don't do it as a teacher point of view, like this is what you have to do. You share it mostly from the experience and say that's what you tried, that is what worked, and then it can get into a deep analytics about something. And the magic comes by one thing. Then you have people who comment on it, who are really big names in industry. How did you make that happen?
Yeah, so I built my entire profile. I got involved in LinkedIn in 2016. And what I've always tried to do is just share what I'm doing firsthand. One of the first things that I think is a misconception is I started as an AE on LinkedIn. I didn't start as a high level position. I wasn't a manager or department leader. I started as an SDR/AE actually at that role. And I was just sharing the outreach that I was doing. Hey, after I finish my cold calls, I'm trying to start my own blog. I'm trying to get my CEO onto podcasts. I'm knocking on doors. Anything I could experiment with, I would just share. And I was doing that on LinkedIn and Quora. And within the course of about 3 to 6 months, I had over 1 million views on Quora and about 100,000 plus on LinkedIn. And that kind of kicked off my journey. And LinkedIn has been a lightning rod for my career. I think since that point, it's how I got this last job at Active Campaign. I was posting about demand creation experiments, and our CMO reached out to me. And so it's now this very multifaceted growth engine that supports revenue, it supports pipeline, it supports hiring, it supports earned media opportunities, and just so many different areas of my kind of professional life. So I'm definitely very bullish on LinkedIn.
I love that. So for me, many of the things that really make sense as well. Particularly, you can share in different ways. Sometimes you share just only a text post with all the research. Something you even have. Yeah, you have this wonderful new podcast. Everyone can create a podcast, but somehow I think yours is so highly professional. So it's really good to bring top people in the industry together. So I wonder, from a job seeking point of view, if I would observe that and say, okay, oh, look at this company, you need to be really top of the game on LinkedIn. Don't you think it also prevents people from joining, those average normal account executives who use LinkedIn in a very silent mode?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a couple things I'll say for job seekers. The first is, it is my opinion that the standard resume has dramatically changed. When I am hiring for roles, like the last dozen roles, I don't know if I ever looked at an actual resume. But every time I go and check out things like LinkedIn, not saying it's a prerequisite that it's an instant no if they don't have a presence on LinkedIn, but it's the area that I check now. I think LinkedIn is becoming like a digital resume. So I think the first thing that I would note is that something like LinkedIn, even if you don't have massive reach on your content, can become a portfolio and a way for me to get a sense of how you think. And are you a kind of person who is out there experimenting, putting out value add stuff? I get a sense of your perspective that can often be very hard in a very kind of just stiff, stale, standard resume format. So I think that's where there is tremendous value from the content creation side of the house. I also want to let people know that if people are starting out, they don't have a huge audience and they're not sure, like, well, how do I share, like, what work experience am I doing? I'm currently looking for a job. You can share stuff that you've learned before in past roles or other work. But the other thing that you can do is you can go hop on with other people and you can just have quick chats. You can do them on Zoom. There's tools like Riverside that cost $10 a month. And you can basically record those and get a tremendous amount of social content for very cheap. So someone could literally go in, get a tool like Riverside, which is basically a recording tool that people use. Like I use it for my podcast and also for short form, $10 a month. And I can go just ask people, hey, would you hop on and talk about XYZ topic? And very quickly, you can get 50 different pieces of short form content that you can share out. And you can leverage other people's wisdom and have that connected to you and have that be part of a steady drip. So I think there's a lot of ways that job seekers can kind of differentiate. And I personally am very, very bullish about just telling people just get out there and start sharing real firsthand stuff. I think if you do that, you're in the 1% and you'll immediately stand out.
Thank you. Couldn't say that better, because that goes also into the journey in the book, because many people are a little bit still afraid and think that, is it really needed? Is it an add-on? And I still see salespeople, marketing people who believe we don't need to do it by ourselves. We do for our company, but not for ourselves. Like the shoemaker has the worst shoes. But I think it's a great way to send out, to build a relationship with people. And of course, that's one thing. In not only the corporate world, but also in smaller businesses, people are changing. The one who I don't want to connect with because he's a competitor, one day might be a partner who then becomes my even colleague one day, because people are moving. So building this network based on content and sharing what works is really a great type of story. And this type of content can help, and you can even add something what you learn in comments to share your perspective. And I think what I've done quite often, and that's not visible actually, I take pieces of this and say, hey, Casey, you need to meet maybe with Maggie, and you have something in common. Particularly, you both talked about using it for perspective. I would connect both of you. There's nothing in it for me, but I believe maybe you two have something together, which without content, I would not know about. And that's the way how we can work around the whole content piece. I also add networking a lot of face-to-face. That works in sales, but also in career. When I wanted to sell to a large company, figured out that their HR person had a conference, participated at a university. So I went there, talked to her, and then throw certain names in the conversation, what she knew and liked, and that I use then later on it. And the same thing we can do on LinkedIn as well. And that is so powerful. So for those, Casey, who are just starting out on observing things, what's going on, and see, oh, there's some who are really, really good. How can I get not to Casey's level or step 10, or mine maybe on step 7, but how can I get to from step 1 to 2 or 3 to really get out there? What is the one main thing to get started?
Yeah, so I just want to say one preface, which is that when I started on this LinkedIn motion at Active Campaign, we had dozens of internal employees, and some of those people had basically zero presence. They were getting maybe like 100 views on LinkedIn or even 0. And we took tons of those people to what I call the 10K club, which means you got 10,000 impressions in 1 week. And we did that over and over and over again for people starting from scratch. So I just want to first say that the idea, if people are intimidated, they're posting, hey, my post only got 250 views, my post only got 500 views. Like, that is okay. And you can very quickly change if you start to share firsthand experiences and real substantive stuff, and you get away from the very general 30,000 foot view kind of AI akin content. So my first thing I want to tell people is share real data and experimentation. Connected to that, what I would tell people is, and I'll go through this very quickly because it's a longer concept, but I talk a lot about what I call 5 degrees of content. So what this means is when you post what I call first degree content, it's like something directly about, if I was to say, how does ActiveCampaign compare to HubSpot? It's directly about my product. It's first degree, right? This really only works if you have a large following and you're trying to convert existing intent. And then as you walk up that ladder, second degree content, I might be talking about predictive sending and marketing automation. Third degree content, I'm talking maybe about email in general. And that layer is what I normally associate with thought leadership. And fourth degree content is I'd be talking about something relevant to my audience, but not necessarily at all connected to the product. The reason I mention that is when you're thinking about what type of content to post, try to have that niche, try to have that area where you start to build recognition for a thing. There's a lot of content that exists out there. And if people start to say, hey, when I see Casey posting, he's talking about organic growth. He's talking about email. He's talking about SaaS, in my case. These kind of clusters, they start to build an association between those things and you, and that can carry value. So I think that was about 3 different things. But I would just reiterate, get out there, try to share real things. And if you're struggling with not having enough ammo yourself, talk to people, take their insights, and then bring those and kind of format those and give your own perspective and post it out. And just get started. Just get started posting, and it'll be a cumulative thing that will build for you.
Thank you so much. So that is a longer one tip to do, but the essence of it, get started, get out there. I'm Swiss, so we will always think about need to be as perfect as possible, but that LinkedIn and social media in general is raw, is authentic. It's about ourselves. It's not a TEDx talk. So therefore, let's get out and make something happen, and then the magic can work. So I really like also the podcast that you started. Thank you. I will follow this further, obviously, from inside and from outside. I really enjoy that and put some traffic to it. By the way, when you always mentioned you get so many views, many gurus say you don't need the views, you need to have the conversation. Yes. But as we know in marketing automation, if you don't put people on there, you cannot get enough out. So you need to have the right density. And I answered this topic in my book. If somebody says, should we focus on quantity or quality, then it's the wrong question. If you change one letter, then you realize we need to have in our network quantity. Yes, we need to have quantity of quality, not or of. So we need to have the right density, the right people, and have also the right message and the right everything. So that also gets into that topic. Really love that. And Casey, there is one. Of course, your podcast is brand new, and you have the top software people on that. But there's one podcast that I had the pleasure to be part of about talking about social selling with Sybil. I would like to ask Sybil now to the stage. And Sybil, here putting it on the slide as well. So then you're the Chief Marketing Officer and the podcast host at Team Recruit and a couple of more things. And I had the pleasure of meeting you at a podcast maybe 3 years ago during the pandemic and even more about it. So please, let's go and a quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Sybil Getgood. I serve as the Chief Marketing Officer and founder of Army. Army is a full-service digital marketing firm, and I'm also the co-founder of Team Recruit, which is a staffing and recruiting agency. In my marketing role, I support several multi-million and even multi-billion-dollar firms in the United States. I'm super passionate about everything LinkedIn, social selling, and personal branding. So Gunnar, thank you so much for inviting me here, and massive congratulations on this book launch.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a special one. And I like this format to do this in a virtual way. I had for my first book, which is called Connect and Act, I come to that point. I had the pleasure also to, that happened during my birthday on May the 4th. I was there last year, so I had 50 people in the room. That was awesome. but I added also a virtual version, and now I do the virtual version and some book readings whenever it happens. And I really like this format because the book has experts like yourself adding your wisdom to it. So, and also as you and I, and also from a personal networking point of view, I think about 6-7 years ago, I had the pleasure to be at a master class at the Institute of Managers and Leaders with your husband, Jamie. That was awesome as well. Independently from that, you and I talked, and then later you both married. So then that's lovely.
Yeah.
A quick question about what does LinkedIn mean to you?
I think LinkedIn is seriously the most powerful professional networking platform. And social selling on LinkedIn, there's three things that really come to mind when I think about social selling, LinkedIn, and being a job seeker. My three personal goals when I'm on the platform is number one, to gain trust of my audience using authentic and expert content. When you're social selling on LinkedIn, it's not actually about selling. Just like you mentioned earlier, if you are there, posting smart insights and even commenting or reacting to smart insights, you become someone that people trust and look up to. The second thing is you mentioned earlier, having the right connections. I mean, your book is about connecting. When you make the right connections, I mean, the possibilities are endless. There's so many things that you can do, meet potential clients, prominent people. I can tell you this fun story. A few months ago, I connected with the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar firm that I later met at a conference and is now a client of mine. And then the last thing that is something that I do on a constant basis is I turn my chats and comments into chances. I literally chat with people and I convert that into real deals and meaningful connections. So those are like the three things that I do on the platform. And
Very
lastly,
good.
just a bonus, because I'm constantly hiring, LinkedIn has also been a way that I attract the best talent.
Yeah, I like that because I wanted to ask you about the challenges from a job seeking point of view. And in that sense, take it the other way around. What is your challenge as someone who has open roles that you can find the right person? Let's answer this instead of the job seeking portion that we heard before.
Wow. Okay. So I was going to echo what Olga said earlier that it is really a tough job seeker market out there and the competition is fierce. But I'll also say, as a person that's heavily embedded in the staffing and recruiting industry, we have complex LinkedIn hiring platforms on the back end. We pay top dollar to have the LinkedIn Recruiter Searcher subscription. And I can tell you, as somebody who posts and evaluates jobs on a daily basis, there are thousands of people who apply every single
Mhm.
day. But what I normally see is a bunch of lackluster profiles. So, what I see is people not using LinkedIn enough, not being intentional on LinkedIn, and they're probably posting here and there, but that kind of makes them invisible because you could stand out and you could show your expertise. Another thing that I normally see is just a lot of mixed signals of their brand or their expertise. You see a lot of profiles that when you land on their profile, you don't know what they're doing. They've done sales, they've done marketing, they've done this, they've done that. So it's a bit all over the place. And when you are somebody who's looking for a specialized person, you immediately, push that profile aside. And I guess, number three that I see is a lot of people literally use LinkedIn just for the sake of having it. They don't use it to intentionally connect with people. And so, I, as a hiring manager, when I message somebody on LinkedIn, I show my enthusiasm. And when that person takes forever to reply, then it's a signal that they're not interested in the role.
Yeah. And you also mentioned one to think for your view as the recruiting person. particularly you recruit into marketing. So then, of course, you would expect that your candidate understand a couple of topics about it. There's one interesting thing you mentioned, that those people who move and move and move, who do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, without a specialty. The disadvantage is when you are known as that very highly focused specialist, it could be that there is no role available for that one. So then I faced this part of my career last year when I saw being known as a partner manager. It means for recruiters, oh, he cannot sell directly, otherwise he would have done. Therefore, he must to sell via partners, being the worst way, the easier way compared to selling direct, which is the harder, real one. Total nonsense. It's just a different type of personality needed for a different type of role. And what I learned early on when I worked at HP, some companies back in the days even wanted to have someone to say, you work 3 years in marketing, 3 years in consulting, 3 years in products, 3 years in sales, 3 years in management, to be one of the candidates to then become the country manager of an organization of 50 to 70 people. So it was sometimes on purpose to go this way instead of being only a tech guy or only in marketing. So then, and that is difficult on LinkedIn, how you can show them what are you. And what I realized when I came here, that the roles how HP back then called them, they called commercial sales manager, because normally you would think, shouldn't it be enterprise type of customer? But there was a different department of HP called, and then a different company, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, they couldn't call it. So I had to learn to dress everything in my CV and LinkedIn so that it fits to the target audience. And when the recruiters then said, you're from HP, that means printers. Nobody buying printers. You need to be software or service. Okay. So you learn a lot on the journey, and it only helps when you really talk to people, compare, figure out what's needed. And then what helped me is to try, because I also hired people. I also try to see it from the other point of view. When I'm in an interview, I'm speaking as a candidate, but I also know I have been on the other side. I also know I have been a panel member sitting, observing. It's actually it's a role play in a certain way. And when you had the chance to play all of the roles, then you can put it better into perspective. And in order to be prepared for this one, I like when I interviewed candidates that I am better come prepared. I look what they're doing. I look them on LinkedIn. I can add a hook to it, as Casey said, and put it in the conversation, not just only as a candidate, but even as a hiring manager. That I say, tell me more about the experience you had back then in Sweden. How did that work on this particular market? And
Yeah.
for the first person I ever hired, I found on his LinkedIn, was early on in his career, he was one of these fresh from university, but 2 years abroad and already working experience. So we really talked about how it was back then working at the shop in Sweden in that retail, because I needed that part of experience, what he didn't know yet. So then, and then showcasing this, ideally with content and conversations and building a network, is awesome. So what is the one tip before we go to that funny point of looking for two winners? What is that one tip you give to our job seekers? What to have
Yeah,
network
absolutely.
or even to animals?
Yeah, so my top tip, and I'll give you a top tip and a bonus tip. Top tip is to really treat your LinkedIn as if it's prime real estate. Think of your profile as your digital handshake to the world. It's literally your first impression in the virtual world. So just like, when we go to an interview, we prepare and we want to look the part, we want to look sharp. Your profile should equally be polished to impress. It's not just about being present, it's about actually standing out. As a job seeker, you want to guarantee yourself as the top choice for whatever role you're applying for. And then my bonus tip, if you're going to go ahead and make effort to create a profile, write your experiences, and connect with people, be among the top 10% in your field, at least on LinkedIn. Position yourself as a leading professional in your industry. Take the time to be very meticulous about your profile, highlight your expertise. And earlier, we had this back and forth about, whether specializing or not specializing. Be very clear I think that's like the first part of your book, which is clarity. Be clear on your expertise, show your achievements, and clearly articulate what separates you apart. So
Perfect.
there.
Really love this. That's a good way to get further on that. Thank you so much, Sybil. And let me show a little bit more um, and also have the two winners shortly coming. So I had the pleasure of working at Hootsuite. So I went there 2.5 years, had a layoff, went into another company, Go2, formerly called Log Me In, which I got from social selling from content that has been seen. That didn't work out too long, was another layoff. That was the trend in 2023. But then I went back to Hootsuite for one particular different type of area of finding partners. And then it was only a contract, but it was great to go back to a company who one day closed a little door. But of course, being there and then finishing with this book that has been delivered on the day of my farewell. That was awesome, 11th of April. So I had the chance to get the first books out of them, 7 of them. And actually, Sybil, I think one of those books I then grabbed to have for you, and one of them, Maggie, you also got one. You got yours. So that was on that day, and that was 11th of April. On a Thursday, on a Friday, I was flying to Chicago. On a Sunday, I met then also with Maggie. And as the world is small, even met another Hootsuite partner on the way in San Francisco. 6 hours. What can you do? That's always a way to meet people. That was my journey, how that then would happen with this book. And then I'm also happy, grateful, thankful that this book not only hit as soon as it came out it was the second half of April on the new releases, that was nice, but also on the bestseller list, at least in Australia. Happy for this one. Many people are bragging with these Amazon bestseller lists. You can also even produce it, but still, it's a bit of that. So I mentioned earlier that I published 25 books, 2 business books, these ones. Then I have one fairy tale that I wrote once for my wife, and published on LinkedIn to test on Amazon to test the self-publishing, and 22 are travel books. So therefore I came more from this time. And if then I see that a 2018 book, so 6 years ago, hit Amazon bestseller status last year, where the publisher doesn't even know what Amazon is because they don't really care too much, that's even better. But still, it feels like nice that apparently some people believe that there's something in a book. And whoever says we can write a book easily, even using ChatGPT, of course you can. It's not a big thing. I published one on ChatGPT. It took me 24 hours, but not under my name because it's not the same quality. It's a difference. If you write yourself, share your own stories, completely different. It reads better. Anyway, so here's the book called Social Selling for Job Seekers. That is one that you have. And of course, the lady on the right-hand side, she's not that real, but I'm grateful that she even has the only t-shirt that exists from this book. That's a funny one. For those who would like to get a copy of the book, here are the 6 Amazon marketplaces where you can get the Kindle version of it, which is still in an introduction price. There's one thing on Amazon which I must say. If you use Amazon Kindle and you have your Kindle store at the Amazon US marketplace, then you will need to take the US link because it's easy to move countries. I mean, Sybil, you have been doing this. Olga, you just for me as well. But you cannot really easily move your Kindle library. So I have a US account, an American, I have an Australian one, but all my Kindle stuff sits in the library in Germany. You cannot merge them. So therefore, it's a different one. But those who would like to also have a paperback signed from the author by myself, so I still have some of the books there, then it's easy to get them from this link, social selling for jobseekers.com. Then I would sign and send wherever it should go to. So then I'm happy to do this. And 2 of you don't need to buy them. 2 of you can win them. So let's see how that looks like. 2 winners, and answering on LinkedIn only, on LinkedIn messaging, which will pop up here. The 2 winners. The first one will receive the signed paperback, this one that I showed, and my organic LinkedIn course, which I created, which also runs on this 4 type of topics: complete, connect, content, and convert, which started as a course and then turned into a book. Course, and signed paperback. Doesn't matter where in the world you are. I ship it out of Australia, sign it here. For the first person who answers, and so that we can see it here, this following question. And I gave the answer earlier on. I hope you remember. How many books did I publish? Looking forward to seeing the answer coming in. So question, how many books did I publish? I do hope that somebody remembers that. So let's see if and somebody says 25, but StreamYard tells me it's a person called LinkedIn user. That's quite funny. So I do hope that it's possible to see who it actually is. Janet, I know, are you the first one? The first one I see is Janet Felix here, just posted on it. So that would be Janet. And thank you, Cecilia, for the same. But so I say in my LinkedIn tells me Janet Felix won the first prize. Thank you. And Elizabeth, Jenku, also that's the right number. Natalie, you know we have been on a podcast. Lovely. So it's 25. Awesome. Thank you. Next question. The signed paperback and the profile refresh, where I look into your profile and figure out and tell you on a 15-minute video and say, okay, this is what you need to change, or I suggest you to change, and go a little bit deeper into the profile, and we can have a conversation about that. So I do this sometimes also as my own side business to help those in small, medium companies to help them, because many of them, let's say in financial services or in other industries, are not that good at it. So then I take how I help professionals with one of you, including the signed paperback. And that is the next question. And the next question here, and I gave the answer already, and you might remember that. 25 books, 22 travel, doesn't matter, fairy tale, doesn't matter, but 2 business books. So the question is, and the winner will be the one who gives me the title of my book last year. What was the title of my book last year? So let's see who still remembers it. This is not Social Selling for Job Seekers, but the book beforehand. Let's see if anyone remembers that. I think I said it 3 times. Let's see. Anyone remembers? Before anyone is writing, you can find it on Amazon as well. What comes afterwards? When I said one day I can write social selling for startups, but I've actually started to write a book that fits into what Sybil said, what Olga said, what Maggie said, what Casey said, and I call it Celebrate Your Network. It talks about the power of human connection. That will be a nice one. Really looking forward to this one. It's not necessarily a question only of LinkedIn, but it starts with my coffee series and has a coffee on it. So anyone remember the name of my book that I published last year? Oh, somehow I get a message that I would be frozen. I do hope not, because I can still talk. So let's see how that works. So the answer to this one, let's see. So I hope that it's not necessarily frozen, but let's see. Somebody wrote it, yes. Connect and act with the right title. Lovely. So nothing beats a good search engine. So I need to see who was the right the person who answered it properly, because I cannot see currently who the name is. I see also Janet answered this one as well. So that is good. Who else? Yeah, I think Janet and Joanna also. Janet already won, so then it would be Joanna would be the one who received that prize. So that's a good one. Yeah. So thank you for this one. It was fun to find out a little bit of a research. So anyone has any question, please ask now. then happy to answer them. And you can continuously ask questions as well, because the commenting function remains on. It's a LinkedIn Live. It will always stay there. You can further ask anything. So please let me know if you have any questions. Continue asking them. I will answer all the time. So then thank you for those who participated in it. Thank you to Maggie. Thank you to Olga. Thank you to Casey. And also thank you to Sybil and everyone else who participated here into this LinkedIn Live for this book called Social Selling for Job Seekers. Here we go. If anyone still would like to also find it on Amazon. And also the signed paperback is on socialsellingforjobseekers.com. Thank you everyone for joining. Really much appreciate, and hope to see you shortly here. Thanks and bye-bye.